But we do start with our top story as Tottenham Hotspur begin life without Ange Postecoglou. Brentford head coach Thomas Frank is understood to be the leading contender to replace him. Let's go live to our reporter Gary Cottrell, who is at Tottenham's training ground this afternoon. Hello to you, Gary. Tottenham keen then to make a quick appointment. Where do we stand with the process of replacing Ange Postecoglou?
Yeah, they are keen to do it very quickly, or as quickly as possible, and the mood music emanating from this training ground is playing the tune of Thomas Frank. Nothing official from Tottenham Hotspur, nothing official from Brentford, but Brentford, we understand, are expecting Tottenham to seek permission to speak to Thomas Frank, who ticks so many of the boxes of what they're looking for. He's happy, of course, at Brentford. He's made that clear. He's been quoted often saying, I'm at one of the best clubs in the world. What's bigger? What's better? He asks the question. Well, of course, he may think Tottenham answers that question for him. A bigger, with great respect to Brentford, a bigger and better training ground, a bigger and better stadium, a bigger and better, certainly, squad. Champions League football, of course, next season as well. What forward-thinking manager would want to turn that down? And, of course, the prospect of bringing in more players and getting the best out of the players here, potentially, perhaps, the hierarchy here, not thinking that certainly towards the end, Ange Postecoglou was getting the best out of the players here. So Thomas Frank, very much the man that they're working on behind the scenes here. Expect things to happen quite quickly. As I say, first of all, getting permission to speak to him, and hopefully him saying yes. There is compensation involved. He has got a release clause in his contract, thought to be around £10 million, and some kind of gentleman's agreement, we understand as well, for him to give at least another year of the 2 years he's got left on his contract to Brentford. But that's something also we understand may not be too much of a hurdle, because Brentford, all that he's given to the club over the years, always moving forwards, wouldn't, we think, stand in his way if he wanted to move and test himself at a, let's face it, frankly, a higher level. Other names, of course, been mentioned. Marco Silva, his name has been mentioned in connection with the job. He's one that would be considered if Thomas Frank doesn't work out. De Zerbi, another name, but we understand he's happy to stay at Marseille. And, of course, never far from the debate when you talk about a Tottenham manager, Mauricio Pochettino made it clear time and again how much he loves Spurs, how he feels there's unfinished business here. He's busy at the moment with the USA. He's preparing for the CONCACAF Gold Cup. There's a game against Trinidad and Tobago next weekend, which he's busy organising. No approach, we understand, to Mauricio Pochettino, but a release clause for him to leave the USA. Not much different to the release clause that Brentford would have with Thomas Frank. But as I say, having said all that, Thomas Frank very much the man under consideration and close potentially to being announced, maybe not imminently, but within the next few days here at Tottenham.
We will speak, Gary, very shortly to someone who knows Mauricio Pochettino quite well, so we will leave him there for the moment, and instead you can maybe speculate as to why Thomas Frank is seen as the leading candidate at the moment.
Well, the centres will say, well, yeah, Thomas Frank, very popular with the media, very popular with the fans, very popular with his players. All those things will be a factor. He's going to have to put his arm around the players, isn't he? Because there is a bit of a split. We've seen from social media a lot of the players shocked and backing Ange Postecoglou, surprised that he's gone. So there's that job to be done. Obviously, bringing the fans on board as well. Similar sentiment from them regarding the departure of Ange Postecoglou. Not experienced in terms of being in the Champions League and fighting for the top four or even higher in the Premier League. So that's a bit of an unknown. But those who say, well, he's just the manager of a middling Premier League club. Well, listen, the aforementioned Mauricio Pochettino was just that when he came here. Keeping Southampton from being a yo-yo club to being safe in the Premier League. Came here and did the kind of job that they would be hoping that the new man, in this case Thomas Frank, would do. I've written down a few things that he could bring that would be on offer. He's got vision, he's got the right mentality, it's tactical intelligence and flexibility, and he knows how to build a team. And of course, Keeping the players fit is another factor. A lot of players have been injury prone, haven't they, here at Tottenham Hotspur? You can't blame a manager for that, but the board at Spurs, in their decision to get rid of Ange Postecoglou, wondering whether the style of play, wondering whether the training was anything to do with that. Lots of boxes ticked, as I say, by Thomas Frank, and the big box is that it wouldn't be too expensive to get him here, and he would be really, really popular with the players, with the fans, and is tactically astute. Could change his tactics depending on what's required. Champions League experience, no, but I'm sure he's hungry to give it a go.
Thank you very much. I mentioned we were going to speak to someone who knows Mauricio Pochettino very well. It is someone who played for him at Tottenham and played more than 50 times for Spurs. The former Tottenham goalkeeper Brad Friedel joins us live. Brad, good afternoon. It was a very tough decision for Tottenham because of winning the Europa League. Do you think that Daniel Levy has made the right call?
Time will tell if it's the right call. It was a season that I don't think anyone thought Tottenham would have, finishing in 17th, but then qualifying for the Champions League, winning a trophy that hasn't been around since 2008. I definitely think made the board reconsider. I love watching Postecoglou's style of play. I love watching the football. Results this year, I mean, they weren't good enough in the league. That's for sure. So. The next person who does come in is going to have to be someone who knows how to work with and quickly how to work with Daniel Levy. He will be different to work with than any other boss that they've had in their careers, and that's really the big focal point. And that's one of the reasons why I think Mauricio Pochettino's name is there, because he is one of the managers that definitely knows how to work with him.
Let's pick up on that point then as to what makes Daniel Levy different to work with than any other boss from your perspective.
First, Daniel is for the most part a genius when it comes down to the financial responsibility of a leader in a football club. He's strong-minded. He has his own opinions on the game. He has a different type of communication skill set when it comes to talking to the board and talking to the staff that I think some managers aren't used to. One thing that I found with Daniel, though, he's probably the most punctual boss and one of the busiest men in football, but he always returns the message, the phone call, the email immediately, because he's always seeing if there's something out there that can help Tottenham Hotspur. So I think he gets a bad rap sometimes, just because they hadn't won a trophy in so long. They've been close, but he does a lot of good for Tottenham Hotspur as well. It's just he communicates a bit differently. Sometimes he might be seem a bit standoffish with the managers. Other times he'll seem quite affectionate, and it's hard to explain exactly unless you're in the job. But if it is Thomas Frank that goes in there, he'll know what I'm talking about within a month.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that what you were just saying about Daniel Levy doing good for Tottenham Hotspur, and a lot of that is from a financial perspective. He's helped create this wonderful new stadium which can house NFL games, which can house Beyonce tonight, that he is driven by financial gain, and actually that the glory that Tottenham supporters have enjoyed by winning the Europa League, he actually is probably more bothered by the fact that win against Manchester United has got them into the Champions League because of the riches that can bring.
No, Daniel's a supporter as well, so don't get it wrong. Like he'll be absolutely delighted that they won a trophy, but he also understands from when he took over Tottenham, where they were financially, to where they are now. He could sell the club, or they could sell the club, or he could hand the keys over to someone and know that he has created one of the most financially stable and sound clubs in global football. So does he want to win? Yes, he wants to win, but he wants to win with his structure. I think that's a better way to put it. And you can look at glasses half empty or glasses half full. He's either the most stubborn person and he won't change his ways, and that's how it's going to be when he's purchasing players. Or you can say he's an innovator and he's going to make sure that they can win trophies by doing it his way. But either way you look at it, the great thing that Tottenham supporters should understand is the club's always going to be in a good financial standing, so they shouldn't get themselves into trouble like so many big clubs. Look at what happened to Leeds. Look at what happened to Aston Villa. That has happened in the past. So I think he does a lot more good than harm for Tottenham Hotspur. I think it's when it comes to the managers, there's a lot of turnover and a lot of change, and I really think that comes down to one thing: it's how the communication is between the manager and Daniel Levy.
From the club statement is interesting because you've touched on it already. He says we cannot base our decision on emotions aligned to this triumph. He's talking about the Europa League. There's been a lot of lovely tributes from his players, Ange Postecoglou. Just one a few moments ago from Destiny Udogie. A lot needs to be said, but I just want to thank you for the work you did and for believing in me over the last 2 years. I wish you the very best for everything that's coming your way. Again, to go back to the owner and the relationship and communication, do you think he would care and he would talk to particularly senior players about, do you think, from a player's perspective, that Ange Postecoglou is the right guy to take the club forward?
100%. I think he tries to get information to help run the football club as best he can. I don't think he does it, again, this is a glass half empty, half full scenario. I don't think he does it to be devious, but he tries to get information the best he can to make the right decisions for the football club while also being fiscally responsible.
Let's talk about Thomas Frank. I'm sure you'd have heard our reporter Gary Cottrell just before we came to you, Brad, talking about the various attributes he possesses. Would he feel like a good fit for Tottenham Hotspur for you?
He's an excellent manager. I've seen his quotes where he says, why would I want to leave him at a what would be bigger, what would be better? Well, Tottenham would be bigger. That's for sure. Whether it would be better for him than Brentford, again, that all comes down to relationship and style and how you deal with the board at Tottenham. Because right now he obviously deals very well with the Brentford board. And Brentford, by the way, is very much analytically run. Going into Tottenham, they also run it analytically, but they have a little bit more, Daniel will have a little bit more input on really being a stickler for the finances when it comes to certain purchases. So it'll all come down to his personal relationship with Daniel Levy on whether that will then be a better club. Could it be a better club? Of course. There's more riches at Tottenham than are at Brentford when it comes down to the type of players that you can bring in, and if you do get into the Champions League, Daniel Levy will spend a little bit more. If you win a Champions League or win a Premier League, then you'll be able to spend a little bit more, but it'll all be done, within his financial model. So it all revolves. All the managers that have been on this list are excellent, and it all comes down to who will be able to communicate the best with Daniel Levy to be able to convince him or come to a mutual arrangement on the players and the staff that you bring in to be able to play your style of football. That is the single most important scenario when these managers are deciding to go to Tottenham or not.
On him, then, I was wondering whether you had experience of managers who have come from smaller clubs and whether going to a club like Tottenham where the expectation is bigger, particularly after the fact they've just won a trophy for the first time in 17 years, and you see them change over time because everything they do is questioned, whereas with the greatest of respect, you might be able to go through 4 or 5 games at Brentford and it's not picked up on quite as much as it would be at Spurs.
I think he's experienced enough to deal with that just fine. I don't think any of that will bother him at all. Certain managers, yes, especially the more inexperienced and younger managers, I could see that happening. If you're a manager that has only managed, in a League Two or a Championship level, and then you're given the opportunity to manage one of the top 6 clubs in England, I think that can be a bit surprising. But I think he's more than experienced to deal with that situation.
Just a final one then on Maurizio Pochettino, because you know him well. You've spoken about the influence you as a coach in your own career. Timing-wise, does this feel like a bit of a non-starter that before a World Cup in the USA as the US men's head coach, that this is not the time for Poch to be returning to Tottenham?
It would be a surprise for me if he did it. There's probably, I won't give the names of the other ones, there's probably only 2 or 3 clubs in global football that he would even consider the conversation to change at this stage, with it only being about 12 months out from a World Cup starting. Tottenham would be one of those, because I know he loves the club, and I know he likes Daniel Levy a lot, and I know he respects Daniel Levy. They had a really good relationship for many years. So could there be a conversation? That wouldn't surprise me. But the timing, like you said, is not ideal for something like that to happen.
Brad, pleasure to speak to you as always. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
Pues es una ausencia importante, porque Noya es uno de los jugadores que siempre suele comenzar los partidos en esa escalera. Y vamos a ver hasta qué punto lo siente y lo nota el Barrio, que ha sido un equipo un poco de extremos durante los propios partidos, ¿no? Muchas veces ha empezado mal, luego ha mejorado en el segundo tiempo. Hoy el Barrio tiene que salir con mucha más concentración desde el primer instante, porque esto es un partido de playoff y delante tienen un equipo con mucha calidad como es los Troncos.
Atento está para el cierre, Gil Vidal, segundo palo, Carlas, el palo. Adri, ¡gol! ¡Gol del Barrio de Adri de Contreras! El penalti Presi. Mira, y Adri Contreras haciendo de la suya. Se queda en el campo y dice... Ian disparó. ¡Oh! ¡Sácala, Gerard! ¡Gol! Verdú también, Edgar Álvaro. Verdú la deja para Edgar. Rompe la barrera. ¡Oh! ¡Gol, gol, gol! ¡Gol! ¡Tenemos suerte! ¡Gol! Todo tuyo. Ahí está, Marmartra, que lanza un... Bueno. Jugador estrella.
¿A quién ponemos?
¿Será doble jugador estrella?
Sí. ¿Qué quieres? ¿Penalti?
Pues
Vale,
quiere penalti, no quiere quitarle el jugador. ¡Gol! ¡De los Troncos! ¡No falla Verdú! ¡Viene Arche! ¡Manu Martín! Al lado de la pelota. A ver, aquí va. Va directo a la pelota. ¡Gol! ¡Perchita! ¡Gol! Para los Troncos. Se fue por la clásica, por la segura. Chita, Sorroche con el centro. La bajó muy bien Litus, pasa atrás. Edgar.
¡Oh!
Buen pro en el área. Paufer con el cuero, el segundo palo. La tapó. Pérdida la tiene Arche. Se barre con toda carrera plana. Rebote para allí. ¡Gol! ¡Gol! ¡Del Barrio!
Ian González, habéis repetido la suerte de las chicas y estáis en semi. Enhorabuena.
Pues nada, muy contentos. Parece que ya empezamos a salir del pozo en el que nos metimos en Liga después de esas 4 derrotas seguidas. Y nada, a Madrid seguro.
Os enfrentáis, al igual que las chicas, a Ultimate Móstoles, guerra de clubes, parece.
Sí, esperamos a ver si podemos ganarles ya, que desde que salí de allí de Móstoles no le ganó ningún partido. Así que nada, DJ, voy a por ti.
O sea que celebración de gol si marcas, a lo loco, todo, ¿no?
Tanto no, pero ojalá le meta uno.
Bueno, enhorabuena, a disfrutarlo.
Muchas gracias.